Hello, I'm Jim Paxon. Today you'll get an inside look at what it takes to become a wildlife manager. Then we'll head east for the latest on the endangered Mount Graham red squirrel. All that and more coming up right now on Arizona Wildlife Views.
Arizona Wildlife Views is brought to you by the sale of hunting and fishing licenses and the Heritage Fund, lottery dollars working for wildlife. Some projects made possible by the Sport Fish and Wildlife Restoration Fund.
Welcome to our show. In our first story today, we've got part one of an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at the rigorous training that our recruits go through to become an Arizona Game and Fish Wildlife Officer.
They're scientists with sidearms, biologists with a badge. You might know them as game wardens, but at Arizona Game and Fish, they're wildlife managers.
That is a baby, believe it or not.
It's their job to conserve and protect Arizona's wildlife, more than 800 species, and to enforce laws that help keep you safe in the great outdoors.
Right here.
It's a profession unlike any other, one that requires a tremendous amount of training and a special set of skills.
Congratulations to you guys. We are absolutely glad to have you here.
This is a new class of recruits. It's their first day on the job, and we're about to follow their long and challenging journey to see just what goes into the making of a wildlife manager.
I'm a little emotional. I'm sorry. I'm kind of at the end of my career. And seeing you guys start in yours.
Seeing these WM recruits at the start of their careers brings a wave of nostalgia to Jim Hinkle. After a 29-year career, his retirement is just weeks away.
I started out thinking I was going to be a wildlife biologist. And it was when I learned about the wildlife manager position that you not only got to be a professional wildlife biologist, but you also got to be a fully commissioned Arizona peace officer where you could enforce laws, protect wildlife, help people in the outdoors. Well, it just put the package all together. Even though you get spread out. It was far more than what I expected. Much more difficult, much more challenging, but far more rewarding.
Okay, so that one works up. Okay, so this is the large.
Would you get two?
Yeah, I've got
What
two.
size?
Medium. These are your dress shirts. You're going to be putting them underneath your body armor as well, so they'll need to fit a little bit. They'll need to fit. They'll need to fit a little bit loose. Okay.
Week one at Arizona Game and Fish headquarters in Phoenix is all about getting ready for what lies ahead.
Yeah, they'll run you a bit and have you PT before that happens.
The first critical step is making it through 18 weeks of police academy training, which starts in just a couple of days.
Yeah, definitely nervous. It's been quite a process getting here, and I'm really thankful to have made it to this point, but really nervous about, the unknown and the known ahead.
I'm nervous, to be honest with you. I think it's a good thing to be nervous.
I'm excited, I'm nervous. I'm starting to have strange dreams about it at night.
Nervous, but excited. Those are the predominant things. Very excited. This is the first step in the career that I've wanted for a long time. I started wanting to do this when I was 17 years old, and it's finally here, so I'm excited.
A little stressed. I know it's going to be tough. These 4 months will be probably pretty slow passing by. Maybe at the end I'll think differently, but right now it's a long haul coming up.
The anxiety and anticipation of not knowing what you were facing and knowing that you were going into a paramilitary environment where they were going to break you down to build you up and turn you into a professional law enforcement, it was exciting and fearsome all at the same time.
There's mixed emotions.
I'm extremely excited, but I'm very nervous. I feel like physically I'm ready, but there's always that little part that, you know, at 45 years old, is my body going to hold up and be able to endure to the end on this?
My expectations are it's going to be brutal. It's going to hurt physically and mentally.
Lots of excitement, lots of nervousness, but I can't wait. I'm ready to start. We're all ready to go.
Enough talk. Let's go to work. That's how I feel. I'm ready to dig in.
Before we get started for Class 39, there's a couple of things I want to go over.
It's Monday, August 3rd, day one at NARDA, the Northern Arizona Regional Training Academy, located on the Prescott Valley campus of Yavapai College.
It all hinges on having a servant's heart.
After his welcoming statements, Academy Commander Captain Jeff Noonan of the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office reminds the trainees that everything they do here is done for a purpose. Then he introduces their drill sergeants.
Get on your feet! What is wrong with you? Why are you looking around, freak? What are you looking at? Get on your feet! Quit looking around! I'm not here to be your friend, your buddy, or anything. I'm here to train you.
You see somebody walking down the hallway, an instructor?
Nothing prepares you for that moment when the doors fly open and people are screaming at you and you're like, oh gosh, please don't look at me, please don't look at me, please don't look at me.
Obviously the beginning is not so much fun.
The first and last word will be sir or ma'am. Do you understand that? Sir, yes, sir! Louder! Sir, yes, sir! Sir, yes, sir!
You know, you can hear stories, you can be told about it, but there is no substitute for experiencing it. And to realize that literally your professional career, your income for your life, hangs on the balance of surviving and passing and doing well. And so to wash out means I've got to find another career field.
Make no mistake about it, people. This is an intense training program. You got to earn it, people. And that starts right now. Is that clear?
Sir, yes, sir!
And you will be held to a higher standard. Sergeant Kite, will you please get these people out of my classroom?
Get out of here! You can't hack it here, then you cannot hack it out in the real world.
A lot of things being said, but you know, one which just keeps sticking with me is embrace the suck. And I think that's going to be really applicable to the next 4 months of life.
Halfway down. Halfway down.
Those first few weeks, we test them because the simple fact is some people were meant to be cops and some people were meant to call cops. And if they can't handle that amount of stress in a controlled environment, then they're going to crumble in the real world. And that's not a bad thing to find that out. That's the place to find that out is in that controlled environment. So it's tough.
I think I'm gonna get my butt kicked pretty good, but I think that, you know, I have to look at it like this time is the time in my career where I'm going to be learning so much valuable information. It's going to make me a better person. It's going to make me a better police officer.
The reputation of 1,000 years may be determined by the conduct of 1 hour.
I expect it's going to be hard, and I expect that we're all going to be tried no matter what, no matter how fit we are, no matter how well we are at academics. I know we're going to be tried.
Yeah, go, go!
I expect to be tried because the more you're tried, the better you will be. As long as we all work hard and get everything done, then we'll be fine.
It's going to take this group, we're really going to bond through this experience. And I think one of the main things that's going to get us through is sticking together and becoming a team.
For 18 weeks, the trainees are tested in the classroom, on the track, and in the gym.
Get geared up, right here at this table.
Great leg.
Sometimes learning what it takes to be a police officer requires doing things the hard way.
Get back. You're gonna get sprayed in the face.
Like taking a blast of pepper spray to the face and somehow managing to fight through the pain in order to stop the assailant.
What does he got? Get on the ground! Get on the ground now! Go! Good job. Keep an eye on it. Request sneak back up. Oh, damn it!
Throw water now. Careful rubbing. Your elbow will hit first. That helps. That takes an hour.
Through it all, these recruits have become physically and mentally strong. They've united as a team and discovered what it means to enforce the law courageously, ethically, and compassionately. After 18 long weeks, the NARDA Academy comes to an end.
It seems like yesterday we were still in our black and whites, honestly. I can't believe it's already here.
There's one final inspection and a graduation ceremony that takes place Saturday, December 3rd at Yavapai College in Prescott.
It has truly been my honor to be your class sergeant, to watch you grow, to watch you succeed. I'm proud of each and every one of you. I'm proud of you for your hard work, your dedication, and the level of resolve that you've shown in making it here today. There is absolutely no doubt that you've earned it.
This job is all about having a servant's heart, a warrior spirit and a servant's heart. And service to the people of our community and service to our brothers is really why we're all here, and that's what it's all about.
The graduates will now file outside to the front of the building for the badge pinning ceremony. They will line up in their squads for family members and others to pin badges on the new officers.
I kept up with those younger guys. Lots of Advil, lots of ibuprofen.
They're simply crossing the threshold into their career. So our job is to give them the basic knowledge, officer safety, presence, to know the inner workings of criminal justice system, that kind of stuff, and how to apply it, and then they go learn their job from their agencies.
I know.
Sergeant Kassoon and that academy turned me into something that I didn't even know that I could be. And those 18 weeks are, I was telling my family after graduation, I spent 5.5 years in college, and I'm more proud of those 18 weeks that I spent at the police academy. It changes you. It's really an amazing process.
They're not done yet. For a look at the next 6 months of training, join us for part 2 of the Making of a Wildlife Manager on the next Arizona Wildlife Views. The Pinnacle Mountains in southeastern Arizona can be bitterly cold in early November. Maybe not the best time of year for an outdoor gathering, but this group of wildlife biologists must find some warmth knowing they're here to save an endangered species.
To look at places where we can build a soft release enclosure for animals that we hope to breed at the Phoenix Zoo.
The animal U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service biologist Marit Alanen is talking about is the Mount Graham red squirrel. It was listed as an endangered species in 1987. In 2014, a pilot breeding program was launched at the Phoenix Zoo. It's a huge challenge because these squirrels are extremely territorial, and research indicates that the females are receptive to breeding for no more than 8 hours on one day each year.
Our challenge is we don't know which day of the year that is, and we don't know which 4-hour window we have to put them together.
Once they are able to successfully breed them, we need to figure out ways to bring them back up to their habitat and how to release them. So today we are meeting with Phoenix Zoo, Forest Service, myself, Fish and Wildlife Service, and Game and Fish to look at places where we can build this enclosure. And the soft release enclosure is essentially a structure which you can bring an animal to, have it sort of acclimate to its environment before you then release it into the wild. So over the course of time, hopefully we'll have, we'll have some squirrels that we can actually try to see if we can release them into the wild, and hopefully they'll be successful.
This is their only habitat, the upper elevations of the Pinnacle Mountains, where the highest peak, Mount Graham, towers nearly 11,000 feet above sea level. The Mount Graham red squirrel is a subspecies that's been isolated from other red squirrel populations since the last ice age, 10 to 11,000 years ago when the glaciers withdrew, leaving the Sky Island habitat of spruce fir and mixed conifer surrounded by miles of desert.
So over that time period, their genetics have changed to some extent. They seem to be pretty inbred at this point. Some of the genetic work that we've had done indicates that they're all on the order of being identical twins. But it doesn't seem to be impacting them too badly from what we can tell. You know, they're still breeding, they're still hanging in there in that 200 to 300 population level.
They've had a lot of influences impacting them and their habitat up here on the mountain. So we've got native insects attacking their habitat. We've got non-native insects attacking their habitat. We've had several large-scale wildfires occur within their habitat.
Ann Casey, a wildlife biologist with the Coronado National Forest, says Mount Graham red squirrels have a lot going against them.
They do, but they're also, you know, they're a small mammal population, and that population seems to be behaving like most do. They go up and down. They rebound from several negative factors, so we're kind of counting on that to keep them going.
But they're also doing what they can to improve the squirrel's habitat. One example is the Pinnacle Ecosystem Restoration Project.
So if you look around, you can see that we're removing a lot of the trees. It doesn't sound like that would be good for squirrels, but what their biggest threat is fire. Landscape scale fire can take out large swaths of their habitat. And so what we're trying to do is restore the area to a situation where it will become resilient to wildfire, so it can actually have wildfires move through it in a more natural pattern. It'll burn smaller areas, and the trees remaining will be a little more resistant to the negative effects of fire. So what we're trying to do is release the remaining trees so that they receive more nutrients and more water. They can grow faster, and they're on a trajectory toward old growth conditions more quickly than if we left it in its overstocked condition.
So that's the nest tree, that big old Doug fir there.
A team of researchers from the Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife Service, University of Arizona, and Game and Fish has conducted an annual squirrel census since the late 1980s.
Let's see, in 2014, the census that we do every year indicated that the population is 274. The year before that, it was 272.
And in 2015, the number dipped to 263.
For the last 10, 15 years, they've been sort of hovering in that 200 to 300 range for their population.
These population estimates are based on an annual survey of active middens.
We're at what's called a midden for a Mount Graham red squirrel. Essentially, it's this really big pile of cone scales and debris. It's a place where the squirrels will actually bring cones back to, and they'll bury them in the midden. They'll bring mushrooms back as well and bury them, and that's then their food source to get them through the rest of the year. During the winter, they don't hibernate, so they need food all year long. So this one is active. We did see a squirrel here just a little bit earlier. You can see some of the cones have been, chewed on, and the seeds have been taken out. This was a white pine cone. You can also see sign of feeding over on the log. Oh, and then on the nest tree, you can see where the squirrel has dragged in some boughs into there as nest material. That's a red squirrel.
Habitat conditions and the availability of food are directly linked to the abundance of squirrels.
We've got climate change going on, and we don't really know exactly how that's going to affect their habitat, but it's not really looking all that great. We're having longer fire seasons, lower rainfall. The rainfall can then affect their food source, like we're seeing this winter. We're having kind of a light cone crop.
There wasn't a lot of cone caching this year, so we're a little bit concerned to see what might happen next year with the population numbers. But again, we remain hopeful, and the cones can last up to a year and a half in the midden, so hopefully they've got enough of a stash from before that they can actually persist through the winter.
Getting Mount Graham red squirrels through the winter is one thing. Getting them out of danger will take decades of work.
But we're hopeful. You know, we've got the Pinnacle ecosystem restoration plan and working on the recovery plan and, you know, trying to move forward with projects that can benefit the squirrel and help it to recover and hopefully eventually remove it from the endangered species list.
That would be a bright, happy day on what can be a cold, unforgiving mountain.
The ducks are fantastic. They're just so beautiful. It's nature's art at its best. Come on in. Hi, guys. Emma, find your duck, okay?
Step into Gay Kohl's classroom and you enter a habitat of discovery,
All right, you guys can get started.
where drawing ducks is part of a curriculum of conservation.
Do you have an idea for what type of wetland imagery you want to put in there? Well, I talk a lot about wetlands and how important they are, not only for the ducks and the habitat and the other animals around them, but for us because it helps clean our water.
Kohl teaches art to grades K through 6 at Pinnacle Peak Elementary School in Scottsdale.
Perfect, what a great idea.
She's been here 14 years, every one of them spent immersing her students in a world of wetlands and waterfowl.
Where they eat, what they eat, where they live, their flyway patterns. And so we talk about that, where they have to fly. We talk about migration, and this looks really good.
They're participating in the Federal Junior Duck Stamp program sponsored by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It starts with a conservation curriculum and ends with a contest to design the next Junior Duck Stamp. The stamps are sold to generate revenue for environmental education.
I'm working on a wood duck and I put it with cattails and it's swimming in the water. I've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now.
7. I've been doing it since kindergarten.
We start out working kindergarten and first grade. I will just do the mallard. Then in second grade we'll go on, we'll add 2 more. Then we do the Canadian goose and we'll also do the wood duck. Then we get to third grade, and in third grade then they can look at the whole list of species that are available to choose from, and they can choose anything.
So I just had to move them so their whole body could be seen. I'm doing a harlequin, or 3. I wanted to do them because I don't know, I think they look kind of different from all the other ducks. I chose the Coronado because of its strange beak shape. I love painting them because I see them in pictures a lot and I love looking at them.
We have to think about making their duck at least as big as their hand, large enough for it to be really appropriate for a duck stamp competition and to be made into a real stamp.
Arizona offered its own duck stamp for about 5 years, and Kohl's kids came up with the winning design twice. They haven't won the federal contest, but they always have fun trying.
It's not just, I think, winning that's important, but it's the self-confidence that the students gain themselves because they can see how their artistic skills and their knowledge of the ducks increase each year. And the parents adore it because they can all of a sudden see what happens for them visually between kindergarten and 6th grade. So they can see how they develop.
I've drawn a Canadian goose almost every year. So, yeah.
Okay, I think that sounds really good. So you know how to put that wetland part together. We'll come up with something for you then, all right? Great job. This bird is fantastic. Love your composition. It's going to be really good. All my life, I have integrated the art that I do into the classroom studies, and it's just part of me. I just think it's so imperative that that happens for the students. It enriches their lives, it enriches the information we teach them.
Like mixing colors on a canvas to create something extraordinary, blending art with science can also work wonders.
Working the right and left side of the brain together, and it's magic. Magic happens, and students love it. There's so much learning that goes on, not only in the artistic sense, but also with our conservation and with nature.
Well, that's our show for today.
If you want more information, visit our website at AZGFD.GOV. For all the fine folks at Arizona Game and Fish, I'm Jim Paxon, and we'll see you next time.